You're all set, Cheryl. We're good.
All right, let's get started. All right, so let's give this another try. First of all, apologies to people who are watching and to our applicants for the delay. We've had some technical issues with the microphones. So, welcome to the Hyannis Main Street Waterfront Historic District Commission. This is September 4th, 2024 at 6:30, almost 6:45 p.m. To all persons deemed interested or affected by the Town of Barnstable's Hyannis Main Street Waterfront Historic District Commission ordinance under Chapter 112, Article 3 of the Code of the Town of Barnstable, you are hereby notified that a hearing is being held at Town Hall 367 Main Street, Hyannis, Mass. Selectmen's Conference Room, second floor, 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. This meeting of August 21st? This meeting of September 4th, 2024 is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20, the Chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. I would ask everyone to please silence their cell phones, put on vibrate, whatever it is, so it does not disturb the meeting or people who are speaking. I will now call the meeting to order. Commissioner Perry Wentworth. Here. Commissioner Conrad Watson.
Here.
Commissioner Kevin Matthews.
Here.
Commissioner Cornelius Carley.
Here.
Commissioner Jennifer Hinckley Needham. Here. Commissioner Matt Clark.
Here.
Commissioner Laura Cronin. Here. Commissioner Jack Kay.
Here.
Commissioner Tom Doherty.
Here.
And I, Cheryl Powell, am also here. So it is called to order. If I could please ask staff to make their presence known.
Karen Pina, Admin Assistant, Planning and Development.
Corey Pacheco, Senior Planner.
And Jim Cupford, Director of Planning.
And a special thank you for Town Council Charles Bloom, our Town Council liaison. Thank you very much for being here tonight. We always like your presence. Okay, so that is the call to order. Trainings, nothing at the moment. We'll put something together. Nothing on awards tonight. There is no correspondence, correct? Special with anything. So please remember the commission's purpose and proper procedure. If there's any questions, we can always ask. So, continued business. Adam Burnett, DBA Champ Homes and Company, 75 and 83 School Street, Hyannis, map 327, parcels 249 and 258 with regard to a demolition. Continued from the July, if I could ask you to please sign in, continued from the July 3rd, 2024 and the August 7th, 2024 and August 21st, 2024 meetings. This is also with the same property with regard to a new building, and again continued from the same ones. And finally, the 83 School Street with regard to a new building as well, the same map and parcel, and the same continuations from the same dates. Welcome again, and also thank you very much for your patience and trying to work with this to help you to make this work for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi. Please, you're looking for HHCC?
Yes. Consider HHCC.
Absolutely. Well, we can get another chair for you. Is there one back there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Okay. So, please, tell us what you have to say.
Okay. So at the end of the last meeting, we were charged with going back to the campus with the engineer and the architect to determine whether we could viably move the larger part of the barn to an existing location on our campus, and we were able to identify a nice placement for the barn that would actually work quite well and actually increase or keep the number of parking spots equal. But if we open the doors to the garage and use it as a functional space, then we would actually increase our parking by 2. So I think it ends up working. Outside of the expense associated with doing it, it works for the plan.
Excellent.
So that,
I see a lot of heads nodding here. Well done.
and so that placement is on the south side of the 83 parcel. It is circled there. And so that would be the new placement, and this is moving that building from over there to there.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to say?
That's all we had to do.
Okay, so, commissioners, before I open it up to public comment, on the presentation on the changes, any questions for further clarification?
Just thank you for moving it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to look great. I know it has nothing to do with any plans for the building, or you don't know yet?
You don't know yet. Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate your efforts.
Yeah,
I appreciate
much.
your feedback.
I think it's a win-win for everyone. I mean,
It is.
it's great. And we, again, like Tom and Jack said, thank you so much for working with us because it's a great structure. Now we get to save, which is great.
yeah, Commissioner Cronin?
Yes, moving it over there, but in the condition that it's in, will there be plans to renovate it so that it is not continuing to deteriorate, like siding or refurbishing it?
If that is a recommendation by those that are in the know, I don't know what extent of renovations would be necessary, but certainly if we're going to take the time to move it, then we want it to be structurally sound and be there for the long haul. So if that requires an additional X amount of dollars to do that, then that's something that we would certainly explore.
Yeah, that would be my concern, because if moving it there, it's now something that we want to make sure it gets maintained and not get further deteriorated. Thank you.
Commissioner Wentworth?
Just a clarification, the word barn was used, and then we have garage on the plan, one and the same?
One and the same, and there's multiple other words that we use to describe it. Yes.
We'll stick with those two. Okay. Any other commissioners' questions on the presentation for the changes? Nope. As has been voiced by the other commissioners, we try very hard to work with our applicants to try to make things work, and I'm very proud that we've acquired that reputation, because usually we can find a happy means that works. But thank you very much for bearing with us. So I'm going to open it up for public comment. I will leave it open till we go for the motions. So, commissioners, actually, staff, anything to say?
No, I have nothing further to say. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, how do you feel about it?
Happy to see it. Yeah, I think it's going to work great.
So, as for Commissioner Cronin, when you were talking about renovating, we can only make a recommendation. It's not something we can, because it's not part of it, but, we could put a recommendation in it. So what I will do, yes, Jim?
Yeah, I would just offer, if you want to have some verbiage in the decision, or maybe a condition that, in a relocation of the garage to the new location, the condition and the form of the structure shall stay substantially in the current or greater standards than what it is today, or something to that effect. So we can work with, the applicant if he does choose to upgrade or refinish the outside. It would have to come back to this commission.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's an exterior improvement.
So what I was going to do was to suggest that, as you say, that the condition, maintain, being mindful of the condition so that it does, as Jim has said, stay current, with a recommendation that you try to, think about how to, maintain that. In that, and then come back to us if you decide you do want to do something to it, which is a good point.
We do understand that you're only going to move the major part of it.
Yes, and that probably should be.
Yeah, but when you take the other part of it off, we're going to have that bare side covered.
Correct.
So I anticipate you planned on that.
I'm certainly not going to leave it wide open.
Okay.
Now, is that something, I'm unfamiliar with the process, is that something I need to come back before this board?
To cover it? No.
No,
Yeah.
you're going to expose part of the building when you remove the shop.
Correct.
So it just needs to be reshingled. That.
Okay, and I asked that because,
It's not an assumption. It just needs it.
right. I asked that question simply because of the previous statement about any exterior improvements. So if I am to replace a couple of the clapboards, that I need to come here and
I
No?
think, my understanding, yeah, I understand that's maintenance. If you're just replacing, clapboards and
Like
things like that.
materials, you're, okay.
Like materials and
Yeah.
colors.
Yeah.
Okay, good, okay.
Okay.
Probably going to have some of that in move anyway. Some things.
Let's
that-
hope it's minimal.
Yes, hope so.
We do too. Okay, so if there's no more discussion on that, I am going to close public comment, and I am going to ask one of the commissioners if they would like to make a motion. Do you want, clarify, last time we didn't do either the demolition or the new building, so we still have both of them there. So we might as well link the two, if you're okay with that, for the demolition and the new building, but also with regard to with moving the garage, or whatever we're going to call it, that it stays, be mindful of in the transportation, that it wants to land in about the current condition, but also with a recommendation that you may want to consider, whenever it comes to keep it so it doesn't deteriorate further. Does that make sense?
Is that 3 motions?
No. It's
One for
just.
demo, one for moving, and
Yeah.
And then you have the COA for 75 and COA for 83. I don't know, Jim, I'm thinking they should do a separate.
Correct, yeah.
Want us to do separate?
It will
Okay.
ultimately be 3 separate decisions rendered.
Okay. So in other words, so the demolition, and then the new building, and then where do you want us to put the garage? Which part on the garage?
It's up,
Demolition?
well, it's on a parcel going to another parcel, so it would likely be a condition of both
Okay.
of the decisions if the commission agrees.
Okay. So would a commissioner like to make that motion? Let's go with the first one.
Gonna go with the findings.
On the findings, yes.
I'd like to move that the commission approve the application of Champ House on lots 75 and 83 as proposed, with our recommendations for maintaining appropriate appearance.
And that's with regard to that's the demolition, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
a second.
All right, so Commissioner, now I just want to be clear on this okay, we have a bit of an error here because Perry, you were not here for it. So can she still make the motion? She can't vote. She can't, so I'm going to have to ask somebody else. The ones, just to clarify, because we do have a full house tonight, the ones who cannot vote would be Jennifer, Neil, Conrad, and Perry. So it has to be some, yeah, we'll have to have somebody else make them. The ones, no, it has to be done beforehand. So that form would have been signed in. The ones who can vote tonight on this are myself, Jack, Tom, Laura, and Matt. And if we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Kevin, you can also, because we can go up to 7, but we will already have quorum. Okay? All right, so would one of those like to make the motion?
I will. I move that the commission find the application to be compatible with the preservation and protection of the district at 7583 School Street for the demolition and the movement of the historic barn, and the movement to be the same or better as the structure is today, and all additional sidings will have to match the existing building.
Seconded by-
Can we make sure that it includes the demolition of the pavilion, or is that separate?
We're doing that separate.
I did say demolition of the
A
other-
pavilion?
of the other building.
This is the demolition.
Oh,
Okay, that's Tom, and that was seconded.
I will second that, yep.
Okay, so, Commissioner Kidd.
Aye.
Commissioner Doherty.
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin. Commissioner Clark.
Abstain.
Thank you. Commissioner Matthews.
Aye.
I also say aye. Would somebody like to make a motion on the certificate of appropriateness for that, please?
I move to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 75 and 83 School Street, as described in the material for the new buildings and the movement of the barn, as recommended in the demolition.
I'll second that.
Seconded. Okay, so Commissioner Kay?
Aye.
Commissioner Doherty?
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Abstain.
Commissioner Matthews?
Aye.
I also say aye. So that has passed on that one. All right, so for the new building, would one of the commissioners like to make a motion on the findings? Do you need a spare? Anybody?
Got it. I move that the commission find the application to be compatible with the preservation and protection of the district at 7583 School Street, as long as the barn is moved in the same condition as it is existing today, and all, any additional materials have to match the existing materials of the barn.
I'll second that, Tom.
Okay, so Commissioner Clark?
Abstain.
Commissioner Cronin?
Aye.
Commissioner Doherty?
Aye.
Commissioner Kay?
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews?
Aye.
I also say aye. And that would also be for the certificate of appropriateness? That was the findings on the second one? Oh, that was the second one. Okay, we got it. For some reason, I thought we had just done the other. Okay, so now, new building, 83 School Street.
Question on the
Oh,
certificate
sure.
of appropriateness. Both 75 and 83 are both on that certificate. So doing one, doesn't it do both?
Well, that's what I was asking, but because it was that, but it,
Different parcels.
apparently it's better because it's a,
Parcels,
it's a,
different applications.
Okay. Parcel numbers are different. That's why I was saying there's two different ones on there.
I had the same question.
Gotcha.
I feel a lot more comfortable that I'm not the only one that has. Okay, so now with regard to the new building, again, 83 School Street, map 327, parcel 249. Would one of the commissioners like to make a motion on the findings?
Sure. I would move that the commission find this application at, I believe now we're doing 83 School Street, which would be parcel 258, to be compatible with the preservation and protection of the district, as long as the barn, this historic barn gets moved to the new location on the lot and using all materials, same materials or better as it moves over to that side of the lot to make sure it stays up for a good long time.
If you don't mind, I'm going to make one correction with your permission on that. You said parcel 258, it's parcel 249 on the 83 School Street application.
I'll second that.
Okay, you accept my amendment?
Got it, okay. So
Okay.
they're backwards, and I apologize, you're right, 249.
Okay, and Commissioner Kay, you seconded that?
Yes.
Okay, as stated. Okay, so Commissioner Kay?
Aye.
Commissioner Doherty?
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Nay.
And Commissioner Matthews?
Aye.
I also say aye. And for certificate of appropriateness, if somebody would like to make that motion, and that is with regard to 83 School Street, map 327, parcel 249.
All right, I'll try to do this one right. I move to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 83 School Street, map 327, parcel 248.
249.
249.
We all do it.
I've
We all
got
do
reading
it.
glasses on. As long as as we've spoken about, the historic barn is moved to a different part in the lot and uses all materials matching what it is now to fix it up, put that back on, and make any kind of improvements they need to.
Second.
Doherty. Okay, so Commissioner Clark,
Nay.
Commissioner Cronin,
Aye.
Commissioner Doherty,
Aye.
Commissioner Kay,
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
Aye.
I also say aye. Congratulations. Thank you for bearing with us. It's a complicated,
I understand. All for your consideration.
thank you.
Thanks.
Good luck with that. And you guys do a great job over there, by the way. Commissioner Matthews,
Yes.
we all do it. We all do it, believe me. Please.
I have an eye doctor appointment Friday. Now I know it's time.
All right, so next up. Sawyer. What? Oh, no problem at all. I'll put this on. This is with regard to Sawyer Realty Holdings LLC, 473 Main Street, Hyannis, map 308, parcel 084. This is for demolition, but also same property, same ident, new building. Let me get my stuff out of your way.
If everybody has
What is it you need it for?
the USB, but if everybody
Oh, okay.
has theirs.
We can let her use the USB in there, can we not? Up with, that's, he'll give you a hand with that while we get sorted here.
Thank you. Good to be back. That's all right. Way of the world. I always say, you guys are not being paid. You guys are volunteering. Oh, it is. There's a lot of volunteering. Up there. I was on that school committee for a while. That was, boy. Wow. We all set?
Okay, so how do you want to do this? Do you want to do the demolition separately and the new building, from the new building, or do you want to kind of present them both
I
together?
think they get presented together if that's
Okay.
best. If you,
Whatever you're
yeah,
comfortable with.
absolutely, yeah. That's the best way to handle it.
I'm fine with that. I just always like to ask. Okay, please tell us here about your project.
Okay, is it supposed to get right into the record, or, no?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, did you say?
I apologize, I'm just,
I thought I did do it. Sawyer Realty Holdings LLC, 473 Main Street, map 308, parcel 084, same address, demolition and a new building. I did read it before, but not the problem. The address is read into the record. Is there anything else you wanted read into the record?
I wasn't sure, maybe I missed
Not a
it when we
problem.
were chatting.
Not a problem.
As I think you folks know, I'm David Lawler, and I represent the applicant. I have, Devin, the architect, here beside me. I have the owner, Jessica Rosenberg's here with Frank. She's a good dog owner. She thought it was going to be cooler and couldn't leave the dog in the car, and her babysitter fell through. And then we have Patrick Kane on the landscaping. And I'm sorry? I'm sorry. I messed up. What am I saying? Yeah, I know. I apologize. Well, it is one of those days. So want to thank everybody. As you know, this is our second time for most of you. There are some new members to the board, so I don't want to assume anything. But we were here before this board several months ago, and we had proposed a 4-story building with 48 units and 3 retail units on the first floor. And there was, 3 or 4 meetings that we discussed, and Devin's going to go through. There were numerous changes to the original plan that were incorporated into that plan, and I think a lot of them have been incorporated into this plan. However, I don't want to speak for the board, but it was pretty clear that one thing that the board could not get its head around was having 4 stories on this particular location of Main Street. Listening, that there were areas of Main Street in particular, and we'll talk about this, the TD Bank building, where this board thought it was appropriate, but because of where this is particularly located. And obviously, this board has within its powers the issue of looking at the surrounding area and comparing it to other structures and to make sure it conforms. And today, in preparing for this, I was thinking about a lot of the things that this board was saying about Main Street. And technology is a wonderful thing. So I jumped on Google Earth, and I want to pass these out if I may. I made extra copies, and I think I might still be short. Look at a full board here. I think there's 9 or 10 copies there.
Some of us can kind of pair up with them.
There may be enough, Cheryl, but if not, yeah. I was intending to do them in color, but as the day's going, my color printer ran out of ink or broke or something, but it wasn't working at the end of the day. So they are in black and white, but they're relatively familiar photographs, I would think, to anybody on this board. And what I did is the first photograph is the application address. And I just want to point some things out about, and there's an extra one for staff. Look at that.
You did well.
Record, yeah.
You did well.
The broken clock, Jack, is right twice a day.
Can you pass that one down to Jim, please, so he has one?
All right.
Sorry, reach across here, Karen.
And so what I want, in listening to the board, a lot of talk about the height and the differentiating heights on Main Street. So what I did on Google Earth was I took a little trip down Main Street. And it's obviously this is 3/4 of the way down. So the first trip I took down was to the west, and we start off on the building. And I want to note that on the property itself that we're proposing, this new building is proposed to be a 3-story. There's already some tall buildings on the property which would be remaining. And I focused in to take a picture of that on, at 473 Main Street. And you go across, you go next door, and there's another similarly situated motel with similar heights to what's at 473, all second story, but second story peak, so which is higher than second story flat roof, which you all know. Then across the way, obviously, it's a I must be a little off. That must be on the eastern side. You have, again, you have the JFK Museum. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to point this out is that different properties on Main Street not only have different heights, but throughout Main Street, there's varying heights between 1, 2, and then close to 3 stories throughout the entire length of Main Street. So it's very consistent, having different heights, and in particular with the JFK building, different setbacks. For instance, you have the JFK building, the museum, which really is the treasure of Main Street in my mind's eye. And then across the way, you have the Puritan Cape Cod building, which is in the next photograph. And the reason I particularly chose this photograph is that if you look on the left-hand corner of that photograph, beside the restaurant there, the triple odd, the odd triangle, that section of Puritans is a 2-story. And if you look at the remaining, the rest of that, because of what we talked about before, the old construction with taller windows so air could come in at the turn of the last century, the Puritan Cape Cod building is really a 3-story building. And the next photograph shows you the breadth of how long that building is on Main Street, and also the fact that it butts right up to the sidewalk as we're proposing to do. And there was some conversation about that. And the whole purpose of this part of the presentation is to show that what we're proposing to do is in keeping with the entire length of Main Street, all the way from the east end, all the way to the west end, and vice versa on both sides. And then we move further down on, on the east side, and you have, this was taken from 274, but this shows the building with the French bakeries in and a few other shops. Again, 2.5 to 3-story building, brick on the sidewalk on the same side of Main Street as we're proposing this particular building. Again, another photograph at 349. Again, if you look at the 2-story building with a high facade wall, my guess is that's probably to hide some mechanicals, but I'm not certain. And then the last photograph on the east end side is the picture of the TD Bank building, which is this eclectic building built in the 70s. Some people like it, a lot of people don't. But that's going to be converted into a 4-story building and approved by this board. So running from the application all the way to the very west end of the Main Street, you have these series of buildings, including your Puritan buildings, and they vary. Not only, the majority of which actually the bigger buildings are on the sidewalk. Some of them, like the museum, are not. And then the next photograph brings us back to 473. You can see the corner of it. And then the building across the way where the little police mini station is, again, is a 2-story building beside a 1-story building. Then further down the road is the clock tower and the at 527, right across from where I am, and we have a similar tower across the street, though it's not in the photograph. And then you run all the way down to the end, which I still call Guido Murphy's. I'm dating myself. But again, 2.5, probably 3 stories at some point. And one of the reason I stumbled a little bit, actually, one of the photographs I was looking for must have stayed in the printer, because across the street you have the church, which with the steeple obviously is, and obviously that's a treasure of the town, historic landmark, as well as Candy Corner, again another tall building. So from literally running from the old Guido Murphy's all the way to the TD Bank building, we have this really mix, and quite frankly gives a lot of charm to Main Street, of completely different buildings. I didn't get into the different sidings and all this other stuff, because, and I'll let Devin do that. But I wanted to address that at this meeting, because that seemed to me, reading the board from the last meeting, that in addition to the height, that in keeping with the Main Street situation was that issue. And I think by, whether you drive down Main Street slowly, it's starting to now, that Labor Day's over, or you jump on Google Earth and take an electronic stroll down Main Street, you'll see that, and you have the time to see how varying these heights, setbacks, widths, construction materials are. And with respect to the construction materials being proposed, the brick is actually, in the vast majority of the larger buildings, are made, in particular the Puritan buildings, but also the museum, also the old Rockland Bank, the one with the French bakery in it, I believe Alberto's, I believe that's brick. All those taller, bigger buildings have the same or very similar building materials as what's being proposed here today. So with no further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Devin. But I just wanted to give that perspective to the board before we started, because we did listen. And we went back and with one other thing, with great difficulty, because we talked about the fact that, 4 stories, the reduction, and trying to make this, and I know we talked about it before, and I've been talking with my client, the ability to fund this project or any project there, going from 48 to 35 units is become a stretch, where we've really, sharpened their pencils and what to make this become a reality, because of just the way construction costs are, interest rates, and the whole 9 yards, with what's going on, but client owns the property and is trying to, try to develop it in a way that's respectful, and and will give back. And again, and I know it's not this board's purview, but the zoning component of it, is we are allowed, obviously, 4 stories, which this board, under its authorities, indicated that not here. But this is well within the zoning regulations. There would be a couple still need a little bit of parking relief from ZBA, but I respectfully didn't think that that's this board's purview. But we will have off-site, so it would still be compliance with off-site parking. And I think there's a few slight landscaping relief that's needed, but for the most part, it's in compliance with zoning on all the substantial issues. Other than the parking would be in compliance with off-site, because it's allowable under certain circumstances. So here we go, Devin.
Okay, so,
Madam Chairman?
Yes, please.
Can I ask a question at this point?
Sure, absolutely. But bear in mind that they still haven't finished their presentation.
Well, it relates to the height that you were referring to on Main Street.
Yes.
Do you happen to have a couple of heights of these existing buildings? Of note, I thought the JFK Puritan building and the Masonic build.
I know we did an analysis on the
we have the analysis.
the analysis on the Puritan building. I don't know if we didn't do the JFK.
Any one of
But
those, just
JFK
as that compares to what the proposed height would be.
not included in this presentation. It was in our past presentation. The
I think the JFK was either close or probably taller than this, because I know it was close to when we were 4-story. I don't want to provide a specific.
Did you say JFK taller than this?
With the not the JFK, I'm sorry, the Puritan building.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting me. No, the Puritan, the JFK is definitely shorter.
Yeah.
I missed the Puritan building, I think, is comparable, if not taller than this.
It was around 42,
Yeah.
if I am remembering correctly.
Mine's 42.
Yeah, but that includes not necessarily what's going on with the roof.
And the
but-
peaks of this would be where? 40.
Oh,
Thank
then
you.
it's shorter.
And before you continue, I just want to point out for commissioners, because as Attorney Lawler has mentioned, there was a previous application. This is a new application. This is not a continued, so this is all fresh and to be reviewed fresh. Okay, please continue.
One of the things
Oh.
in looking at it, the town has actually one of the best websites going as far as finding information on buildings, but they don't have height. It doesn't have the heights of the buildings. It has lot coverage, it has all the other things. It's an excellent website, but it just does not have height. So other than going out and measuring them, it's difficult. So they are estimates, and I thought it was close to 4 stories, but apparently, I'll obviously take Devon's word that it's a couple, 3 feet shorter. But that's not taking into some consideration. She counted the bricks and did it that way. Devon, I'll let you go.
So there's a demo and a proposed building. The demo includes 3 existing buildings on the property that would need portion of them demoed in order to make room for the parking that's needed and the new proposed building that's going on Main Street. Building A currently has a small 1-story brick attachment on the Main Street side that would need to come down. Building B has something similar. And Building C has the pool building that would need to come down as well. All of the parking will be going right basically where the pool is, and they would be updated to match the existing materials and look of the buildings that exist now, with some minor refresh to bring it up to code, or not code, design-wise, just refresh it to match. Yeah. And then with those demos, we would be able to have room for Building F, that's right along Main Street. It's a 3-story mixed-use building. On the first floor, there's a mix of commercial units and residential, with residential amenities and mechanicals. On the second and third floor, there are 15 units each, a mix of studios and 1-bedrooms. On the 4th level, there's a small section for rooftop unit mechanicals that will be shaded by the roof. This is the view from Main Street. It's a mix of brick, white clapboard, and tan shingles with white architectural trim and details. The roofs are gable, cross gable with a mix of hip. The different facades are, pushed and pulled, broken up so that the building looks not just like one long building, and hopefully a couple of different properties that make up the overall project. The storefront entries are recessed with gooseneck lighting and, awnings. With the roofs, we have projected rakes, trim, decorative brackets, and the shingles are flared base along the second floor and woven at the corners. We have trim around the varying window types with black shutters and true divided light at the storefront windows with brick lintels and brick sills. Similar language all around the building. This would be the high school view. This is the view on the other side, and this is the view from the parking lot. The building was, in our first application, quite close to the corner. We definitely pulled it back, tried to soften the corner, provided some green space, hopefully engage with the people who live there in the community and, open up the space a little bit so we're not kind of on top of the street. These are some of the materials we're proposing. The shingled with the flare, the double hung windows with the shutters, clapboard siding, and the brick, the true divided light. You can see on the landscape plan more closely or clearly what we are trying to do at the corner. It's really, oops, sorry. Oh my goodness. Take your time, we're not rushing. It's glitching. So it's pulled back quite a bit so that we can get this nice green space and some green space along Main Street in between the commercial spaces. Lots of trees along High School Street and trees between the properties, and hopefully some nice tree coverage inside the parking.
A lot of effort there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dramatically different.
Those existing trees, though, the 200-year-old trees, you're taking those down that are there.
Yeah, this street tree is remaining.
I think you're referring to the ones inside the lot, way inside the lot, yeah, that'd have
Those
to
are
come
gone.
down. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's,
So the ones in front, those two that are in the front of the property are going to come down?
you mean the ones that are like 25 feet into the property?
Right off the sidewalk area, those two shade trees that are right there.
Yeah, they would come down.
Yeah.
But and respectfully, I mean, that's, again, it's not within this, I mean, the trees are, it's unfortunate, but as far as construction is concerned, I mean, I respectfully submit that
I
that's.
look at that corner, with that, beautiful church across the street.
Yeah.
Country corners. I know we have problems diagonally across the street from the police station, but that one corner is beautiful. And yes, I had a problem with the size of the building, and you brought it down. But I still think it's too big for the property, okay? And I asked to incorporate more of the Hyannis in architecture into this building. That's what I thought. This, to me, is just another, generic building. Yes, there are different buildings all over, up and down Hyannis, and they're beautiful in their own right, okay? And, again, these are all, and I know this is an R thing, but I am concerned about, it's all one-bedroom and studio apartments. It's going to be more like a motel. But to me, we've been spending a lot of time, working on guidelines for downtown Hyannis. And I did not approve TD Bank, okay? And I think a lot of this came from that we don't want to make any more, I don't think we want any more. I'm speaking for myself. I don't want any more TD Bank buildings approved on Main Street. We're doing, guidelines where, more like I told you, Mare Street Commons, where you had 3 stories, 2 stories. It looked like Cape Cod, Again, and the back of this building, to me, it just looks like an apartment building. This is a jewel of Main Street. As you said, the JFK Museum, so's that church. And I just don't see this. I think it would ruin the corner. That's my opinion. So I thought it would be more designing, like, towards the look of the Hyannis end. So that's what I have to say.
If we can let the applicants finish their presentation, and we'll go into more deliberation. Is there anything more on that?
I mean, I wanted to point out a few things.
Okay,
And I
please
did
go
have a
ahead.
question. Do you, just procedurally, do you name the city, because there's so many people here, who's sitting on this first, or does that get? 'cause it's-
Do I, we all, when I called out roll call, everybody had the name announced.
I know, but
Do-
there's 10 people here, and there's 7, which are the, is it the
There's 7 that can vote on this. So just to clarify, that will be myself, you like direction, write it down, Commissioner Kay, Commissioner Doherty, Commissioner Clark, I got them written down. Why am I doing?
It's all the full members.
It's all the full members, yeah.
Ms. Cronin.
So the ones,
Here, just to tell who the alternate.
yeah, the alternate is Commissioner Matthews. And we have the Commissioner Watson and Commissioner Wentworth. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So all 7 of the
Okay, I
full
just didn't, I
members will
wasn't
be.
sure who was, because it was 10 people. And thank you.
Yeah. We have a makeup of our board. It's 7 full members, and then you have 3 alternates. And if one of the full members isn't here, like in the last time, then we let the alternate to vote on that.
No, I just wanted to clarify, because some boards, the alternates jump in and out, and
But
that's
they all get everyone has, speaks freely, and has full, discussion on it, but they just can't vote. So I do, so now we're in the asking for clarification of the presentation. I always like to wait till last for mine. I only have one question anyway, but are there the very good point that you made there, Commissioner Doherty? Anyone else before I ask a question? Commissioner Cronin?
Yes, I was questioning, this was a mixed use, is it just residential and commercial? But I thought the motel was maintaining there as well, so there was no motel in
Well,
this proposed building?
No, that's, the motel will remain the same.
The proposed building is only commercial and residential, but the motel buildings are staying motel buildings.
Apartments that you're
Yes.
proposing?
Yeah.
Like that,
The
thank you.
30, and they're,
And 2 commercial units.
the new building, Building F, will be comprised of the apartments and then the 2 commercial spaces on the lot. The motels that have been pre-existing will remain pre-existing in their present location, with, if approved, the 2 small brick buildings being removed, but those are restaurant-type uses, and then the pool, which is an accessory use to the motels, but the rooms themselves would stay the same, absent the restaurants and absent the pool.
I'm of the same mind as Commissioner Doherty mentioned, is I thought that we were encouraging us to try to have you maintain the feel and the look of the existing motel and trying to incorporate it into any proposed new design. I think, again, it just looks like the same structure is being dropped in, and it's kind of doesn't have a feel of Cape Cod. I mean, and it is very, very close to that corner. That corner right now feels open, so as people are walking by, it's really inviting and walking, and you don't feel like you're being overwhelmed. And I get kind of nervous when we keep comparing other buildings on Main Street, because they have different use. They've been there for different reasons, and they're, whether they're 45 feet or 42 feet, it's the feel and the perception of it. It still looks like 3 stories, and it just is overwhelming, I think, for Hyannis Main Street. And some of those buildings are set way back. And so they don't feel like they're, they might be tall, but they're back off of the street. I guess I would have, and looking at taking the pool and things like that out, the amenities that would, again, draw people to the motel and such. That just seems kind of counterintuitive, but that's just my opinion, why they wouldn't maintain a pool if you're going to still have a motel. And then you also have that Building E, or the one that we approved earlier, with 20 units of residential, one-bedroom residential as well. So it looks like a lot of density on that area, and I guess I was hoping to see something a little bit more in line with what the existing building and structures and looks like instead of this. Thank you.
This new structure is just blocking out the whole structure.
Right.
Question I have, and I think I know the answer to it. You have here this wonderful historical columns and red brick. I'm assuming you're not, because I was looking through, there are no columns going in, right?
No, it's
just
this
for the light.
brick, but being used in
that brick.
in that brick.
Okay, so it'll look like that, and that's what it is close up. Is
Yeah.
that it? Okay, I wasn't sure. So where's the columns? Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you. So, any other questions on the presentation before I will then go to public comment?
Well, is discussion of our thoughts, is that now or is that later?
Deliberation after public comment.
Gotcha, okay.
And also staff contribution.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Just a question.
On the presentation, yeah.
What were your thoughts behind doing like 20 by 20 studios? Like really, really tiny studios in one bedrooms? What was the thought behind that?
I think-
Instead of, like, there's a lot of mass, a lot of people, a lot of building.
Well, it's twofold. I mean, my client, who is in the apartment building business, felt that there's a need for that on Main Street with young professionals, keeps the rents down as opposed to two bedrooms. With respect to the size of it and its economics. I mean, this building is very expensive to build. And in order to pay for it, you have to have a certain amount of density. You can't, if you, for instance, have a one-bedroom that's 1,000 square feet, you're going to get maybe a little bit more rent than having two that are 500 square feet, but you're certainly not going to get twice as much rent. And it's the economics of it. I mean, if you look at the cost of construction today, and the cost of, certainly the cost of commercial, even though they're residential buildings, this is commercial construction, between having, elevators and sprinkler systems and the price of materials and the budgets that go into building these things, it's millions and millions of dollars. And in order to pay for that, and the thing about it is that the town, when they came down with not just the historic issues, but the zoning issues, is encouraging people to build housing on Main Street with the idea that retail follows residential. I'm a firm believer in that, actually, that if you look at these main streets that get saved throughout the country, a lot of them are being saved by people moving in. If you just look at, I grew up in Boston, I grew up in Jamaica Plain. If you go to the Back Bay, which when I grew up there in the 80s was a dilapidated, half the buildings were boarded up. Residential a lot more residential moved in. You can't buy a place in there for under $1 million now. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to Hyannis over this. We're not trying to do that. What I'm saying is that, there's, Hyannis has its challenges. I've been on the bid board since almost its inception. I own property on Main Street. The issues that confront Hyannis are dealt with in a large way by bringing people into Hyannis, whether it's homelessness, whether it's blight or empty stores or all these other things that affect our community. There's been a tremendous amount of work by the planning board, by Jim, his predecessor Elizabeth, and predecessors before that, trying to figure out a way to make Main Street something that can survive. We have, the Derby Street people coming into the airport, Kmart Plaza. We have the malls trying to reinvent itself. Main Street needs to keep up. And one of the things that Main Street has that these other places could have, but that wouldn't have as nice, is this ability to have a walkable community. And if you're going to have a walkable community, you have to have places where people can live. It's, the whole, basis of these committees, I've sat on them, is to have residential, walk down to the sea, walk down to the harbor, walk at the restaurants and the shops, trying to turn it into, not a city, but turn it into a more vibrant community that has greater density. And it's just not going to work without it. So that's the issue. And if you have economy of scale, that's what you have to do. Meg, let Jessica talk.
Right. Should I stand over there so I'm like on the camera, or can I talk from here? I don't know.
You have to talk.
Take my seat, Jess. Take my seat.
I'll be quick.
Take my seat.
Yeah, you do need to have a mic.
I'll be concise, I promise. Not that you're not.
Can we bring another chair in for you? Would that be all right? Are you sure? Okay.
Thank you for that, David. But I just want to concisely answer your question.
I'm sorry. Your name?
Oh, sorry.
And if you could also please sign.
Yes, I will sign.
This one, though.
Yes. Sorry about that. I am Jessica Rosenberg, as David mentioned.
We can put the parcel.
Okay, thank you. I'm the owner of the property, and our company specializes in adaptive reuse. So every apartment building that we build or that we buy, we manage ourselves. We're also long-term holders. I just want to give a little context. All of the hotels that we also own, we also manage ourselves. So the reason that we're here before you today, and we've been here before you in the past, is because, the Hyannis is fabulous. It is an underperforming, not stabilized asset that takes a tremendous toll on our company from an economic standpoint. Generally speaking, I work with Devin on the architecture side and Ben on the landscaping side on a lot of development projects, and they will attest that I am not one to ask for a lot. I am of the mindset of let's create something that is economically viable for us and people can get behind. And I obviously know there's a lot of opposition here. We've obviously tried our best to curtail it. Whether it gets approved or denied, it is what it is. But to answer your question on the size of the units, I don't know what it is in the world right now, but every project that we are doing right now and we are seeing is that there is every project that we do, whether it's studios, ones, twos, a mix, threes, the studios and the one bedrooms, I don't care what market it is, on the Vineyard, in the Cape, in Tewksbury, Mass, in Weymouth, the studios and the ones are the first ones to go, because people, what we're seeing is, as a renter, and I'm a renter, as a renter, I need enough space to do what I need to do. I'm not looking at it as a buyer where, what's the price per square foot or the cost per square foot on the rental side? Does this unit get me what I need? And for us, while if we do this project, it would be, I think it's 10% or 20% affordable, I can't remember. But we're designing this so people can have a brand new, nice roof over their head, and it's somewhat cost effective. So that is why we design. Yes, David's right. It was more economically viable this way, but it also lent itself to be slightly more cost effective. I mean, we do a lot of development in Martha's Vineyard. I would say 75% of our subcontractors that we work with are from this area, and they come over from the Vineyard. They can't afford to live there. And this building could be full, but again, that's not, so I just wanted to answer your question. And I also wanted to quickly answer your question about the pool and stuff, because you're absolutely right. In theory, you're getting rid of the pool, you're still going to have some motel rooms. The pool gets, and I don't know if it's because we're near the water, the pool barely gets any use, and it is a strain economically on the property. People just don't use it. We, of course, have it open because it's there. So, as an owner, I'm okay with getting rid of it, but you're obviously not wrong with your sentiment. But I just, now we have a full audience, I just wanted to say hello and give the little context of who we are, the type of developer we are, but I totally respect everyone and the vibe of Main Street. I love Hyannis. I've been coming down here myself for a long time with my family since I was a kid in Yarmouth, and just so I totally get it, but I just wanted to put a name behind the face, a face behind the name, and just give a little context of like why it is the way that it is. And like, these guys mentioned, I know it may not look very different, but we have, we've spent a lot of time and dollars into tweaking it, and I'm sorry that we can't make everybody happy, and maybe it doesn't get approved, which I totally understand as well. But, it was challenging taking off that 4th story, and I know that doesn't satisfy everyone, and I really do respect that. So regardless of what happens, I appreciate everyone's time, and I just wanted to give my perspective in a little context.
Thank you very much for that input.
Yeah.
Commissioner Doherty, were you about to, I thought you were about to say something.
Our
You need to
job,
speak in the mic.
our job is, just profitable for you or not profitable for you. That's none of our business. Our business is to make sure it's right for Hyannis. And, I see these buildings going up and down the East Coast, okay, and they're all the same. And a 20 by 20 studio apartment, no one's going to set down roots in a 20 by 20 apartment. It's going to be transient. But besides all that, that's none of my concern. I'm concerned on the looks of the building and where it is, and I don't think it's architecturally correct for Hyannis. And I don't think Hyannis is a dying town, okay? I think we're making great strides in Hyannis. And, 35 apartments isn't going to make or break Hyannis. But I'd like to see 35 apartments, but I'd like to see them done correctly and in tune with the keeping of the essence of Cape Cod. Thank you.
Was there anything else that you wanted to present or clarify before I open the public comment?
Can I just address Mr. Doherty's comments once? I just want to clear.
Please, go ahead.
I didn't say Hyannis is a dying town. I said it has its challenges, and which is a difference in dying. There's been a tremendous amount of effort by this board, the other boards, the planning department to bring Hyannis, make Hyannis better. I think we can all agree it can get better. But what I'm saying is there's economic challenges to ensure that it does not become a dying town. I never use that term, but and part of that is where the issue of residential, and I'm not suggesting that people some people will live there for a long time, but people come and especially in apartments, they live there for 3 or 4 years or 5 or 6 years. They come in, but those people bring a lot to the community. They spend money. They do all these other things and these other buildings that have been here. I mean, if you look at the history of this, again, I took the Google down Main Street. I took the Google Maps road. All these buildings were built over, some of them not that far long ago, and some of them over 100 years ago. And at the time, they were different than from what was there. And I suggest to you that this building is very tasteful and and does fit in, but I obviously, and I respect Tom's opinion that it doesn't, but I just wanted to clarify that I'm not suggesting that, I don't, because I never would. I'm too invested in Hyannis, but I wouldn't say that as an attorney, but as an owner on Main Street, I certainly would never say that. I just wanted to clarify that.
I have a question for you about what's the length of the Puritan building with regards to the length of this building?
Exponentially longer. I have no idea.
I think Puritan is longer.
Much longer.
Oh, yeah, it is
it's at least
longer.
twice as long.
And I don't have a problem with this building at all because it's across the street from some larger building. So I don't share the concern about the size of this building, and I think compared to the first submittal, it's a very dramatic change up to what we were hoping we would see, and the fact that the 4th floor is missing is huge.
And Jack, I wanted to point out, and I forgot that, when Devin was going through her presentation, a lot of the things that we added, and this is a new application, but that we added were the shutters, were the gooseneck lighting, were the racks, the brackets, the corners, the little windmill there, whatever they call that thing.
It softens it, the little round windows.
Yeah. All those, a little sailboat on top. All those things were added at the suggestion of the board. And quite frankly, in conversations with our team, they do. They help the building. A lot of those are things that would, that from a standpoint of the owner, oh, that looks nice. I think that's a good idea. I mean, these are really things that we incorporated and have brought in because of, well, I mean, I know
Yeah.
I know that a lot of the people here are professionals in this area, and those are the things that we added. So, thank you.
Well, it's a great look, but I think the size of the property justifies it. It's a huge parcel, so you've got to do something with it.
Hyannis is in such need of housing.
It is.
I think if you modified this a little bit with the shingles, if they were gray, and maybe took away the brick in the front, put clapboard or something, made it more Cape Cod-ish. Hyannis desperately needs buildings like this.
I thought that we actually requested the brick, did we not? Yes, we did, on the basis of softening it a bit with some, with the red.
And actually, we
The previous application, it was fully brick. We broke it up a little bit with the clapboard in this one to soften.
I didn't see the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's what I understand. I just wanted to, historically, we initially came in with different colors initially. Everything was on the approved list, and this board had indicated that they thought the colors that are on there now, and I don't know if it was a majority, if it was
I think it was,
unanimous.
yeah.
I think there was the majority of the board wanted us to change the colors to what's there now,
Yeah.
and to add the brick and to actually add more brick, because I think initially on that picture there, on the east end, the west side of the building, that the brick is going up to the second floor. That initially wasn't there, I don't think. And then I think we added some awnings, and we added the,
I mean, it's a totally different building.
yeah, it was a totally different building. So you're an architect, too.
I don't think anybody's saying we don't want housing. Okay, that's not the issue. We want housing. We want housing done correctly. And, and you look at this, but maybe turn it around, go down the center of the, where you can see more of the old hotel, go down into the parking lot, leave the trees. This is just, a generic building for housing. That's to me, that's what it is.
Well, and when we,
You want housing? I want it done so it looks like Cape Cod. This to me, and you compare it to Puritan. Okay, well, Puritan is this big, long building. But it gradually works in where Puritan is. You don't notice that it sticks up. Here you have low buildings, then you're going to have a big building, then you're going to have the low police station, and you have a beautiful, historic 1700s church across the street. It should blend in.
I respectfully think you don't notice Puritan because it's been there for 100 years. And when this has been, if this is allowed to be here for a period of decades, it'll blend in just as well because it's very, it's tasteful. And change is different. And I understand you have, your opinion. But with respect to relocating the building on the lot itself, that would be impossible from a parking standpoint because the parking that would jut into parking, there's just no way you could, it would eliminate 50%, if not more, of that front parking lot. And it just wouldn't work. And then the tree you're talking about is located literally in the center of the lot, and that is something that again is something that if there's going to be any development at this front of the building, unfortunately, we'll have to go.
So before, because we're getting dangerously into doing the deliberation before allowing public
Yes.
comment, I'd like to go back and get the public comment and then come into the deliberation and finish that, if that's okay. So is there public comment for this? Yes. Okay, if you could come and sign in, please.
Have my seat.
And I'm going to ask you to keep it to as close to 3 minutes as you can, please. State your name with the microphone.
Thank you. My name's Roberta Elizabeth Mock. I live at 80 Greenwood. Thank goodness the Puritans is still there. And I look at what you're showing and I see the retail windows really not very inviting. I'd like to see more of Puritans on Main Street like they have in Soho. Less residential, put residential on North Street. Main Street, let's bring it back to its old heydays. That's how I feel about it. What I'd like to add is think about Rockport and the Shailin Lou. If you've ever been to a concert, somewhere in Hyannis, I know Cape Cod Symphony was trying to do it at the West End. We need to have a small venue. I keep thinking about this. The Hyannis Library, a collaboration with a year-round performance center somewhere in our village, needs to happen so that we can have the great musicians that come down from Boston year-round not just go to Bass River Cultural Center, but come to our village. Thank you.
Is there anyone else for public comment? If there isn't, I'll leave it open till we go to the motions. Thank you very much for surrendering your chair briefly. Very gentlemanly. All right, now we can go into the deliberations. So some of the expressions have already been made on how we feel about it. Is there anyone else who wanted to voice it? Yes, Commissioner
Sure.
Matthews, you're shaking your head. And I think Commissioner Cronin started to raise her hand as well.
I have a handful of things. The previous proposal I had a chance to vote on due to the fact that there was not enough regular members of the quorum. Unfortunately, I won't be able to this time around, but I just have a handful of things. I agree with Commissioner Doherty. The size of the apartments, the fact that they're pooled, no pooled, doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to this commission, actually. It's you know, that's all your business decisions. So that is totally up to you. I look at this rendering, and I'm glad you have that up because that's what I want to kind of point to. I know you say this is a 3-story building, but with that peaks and roof line, it looks much more like 3.5 to 4. Those peaks and roof lines really come over that 3rd story and make it look tall, make it look much bigger. And again, I appreciate the design, and it looks different with the peaks, and you got the, you know, the spire at the end and all that. It looks nice, but it just makes it look much higher than 3 stories. And again, if you look at that bottom photo there, look at the little storefront on the left-hand side of this building and look at the small substation on the right-hand side. My God, it towers over it. I mean, it's just, it towers over it. And it just doesn't seem like it just fits there. It doesn't, and I know it's zoned, that it's allowable, but I'm just talking about where it is. It just seems too big. And before coming to the meeting today, I actually went by and I parked inside the Hyannis Inn parking lot, and I kind of walked across the street and I was looking and all that. And I agree with Commissioner Cronin. It's such an open feel. I mean, the trees are gorgeous, and there were, you know, tourists who were walking by and they were looking around. It just feels different. And I think if you put that building in that spot, you're going to lose that feel. And that, I think that hurts the aesthetics of Main Street. So, and again, those beautiful trees, I hate to see 200-year-old trees. I hate to see them moved. So again, with all of those thoughts in mind, if I were able to vote today, I would vote no, just because of all of those different issues in my head about the building. Again, you've done a great job. It's a great design. It's not like it's an ugly building. It's beautiful. I just don't think it fits. So that's my opinion. One person.
Commissioner Cronin, I think you had your hand up before.
Yes, thank you. From the last meeting, I was not able to vote because I didn't hear the whole presentation, but I did write a letter that is on file to the commission with regard to...
if I could remind Commissioner Cronin, this is a new application.
It is, and I just
treat
wanted
it
to
as
say
such,
that
please.
some of the issues that were brought up here through their remodel, I don't think it addressed the things in the discussion that they said we had done. I think we mentioned the Mashpee Commons, or we mentioned in Centerville, where you have the gray clapboard and white. If it was more Cape Cod feel and it was set back farther, I think it would have gotten a lot more. I think I would feel a lot more comfortable adding this type of mixed use on Main Street. I think it takes over that whole corner. I think that from a aesthetic standpoint, The brick, I'm not a fan of the brick. I know there's brick on Main Street, but I'm not a fan of the brick in new construction. If we're going to have new construction in Hyannis, I'd like to see it a little bit more softer, especially on Main Street. And when you're coming around that corner and you've got the two buildings in the back, and the only reason I brought the pool, you're right, pool or no pool, it doesn't really matter. But I guess what I was asking about is the business model that they're working with, and they're having all these apartments now, and the motel is going to remain the motel, but they're saying it's a non-performing motel, and I'm just getting concerned that if this now takes over the Main Street, maybe there would have been, it would have been easier to accept if it had been moved back in the end of the property instead of taking over the front. But that's, again, your decision to do that. And it is about the money. It's a cost-effective proposal that you're presenting before us. It has nothing to do with apartment units or anything like that. That's not our peer review. So I just wanted to say I think it just overwhelms the property. I think it would be a shame to lose that visibility on the corner. Puritan's been there for 100 years. This has been there for 70. So it's not too far behind. And we are in the business of protecting and preserving the historic nature of Hyannis and its Main Street. So I really am really concerned about this design and this density on Main Street. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Sure, I was just going to, actually, I have a kind of a nuts and bolts question, and feel free not to answer this. Can you give an estimate as to the shelf life of that motel, if it has to stay a motel?
Should I come over there?
Yep.
When I talk?
Sure.
Yeah.
I need the exercise.
I can't give you an exact answer on the remaining economic life of everything there, but the building as it sits today needs a lot of work and a lot of refurbishment, which we will do because we plan to own this property for a very long time. I don't.
And again, I don't want you to, you're a business person, that's your business.
Like that stucco style, is it stucco?
It's not stuck.
Is it concrete? It's stucco.
Stucco? Okay.
I've actually never, and I respect everyone's, I've actually never been in front of a town that preferred that look to what we're proposing, although I do understand everyone's concerns. That is just not how we typically would build a new building today. It's not the most efficient, but there is a lot of deferred maintenance. There has been a lot of I will say there has been significant investment into maintaining the structure as it is today. We would not propose to tear the whole thing down, but quite frankly, that starting from scratch would not be a horrible idea. It's not the best building. I couldn't go up. One thing that we thought about was could you just go up a story on the existing two? And while I did not have a structural engineer actually look at that, we didn't think it was a good idea knowing what we know about the property. Doesn't mean it maybe couldn't be done, but maybe that is something that we will look at. Who knows?
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And again,
I
Attorney
guess-
Lawler, thank you for
And again, for me, the consideration is, I'm picking up a little vibe that and this is an historic building. When you look at the application papers, a lot of stuff happened here. But is it that we're losing this history? Or is it more that the building interferes with the overall historic nature of Main Street? Are those both factors, or is it just that we're putting up a building that kind of disturbs the overall?
I think it's a building that does not fit.
Yeah, not historic.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
like the Comfort Inn that I
You know,
stayed in over the
you
weekend.
bring up a good point. If these buildings down the road, they could be going down, and we'd be going back here with another three-story building on all sides of the place.
And that's what led to my decision on the TD Bank building, because we saw a fallow property in a part of town that really was in need of a shot in the arm. I think, Tom, your points are well taken, in that the context of what we're talking about here is next to probably one of the most famous churches in America.
I would agree with that.
And I love famous old church. I love old churches, and, to see them kind of get blotted out by skyscrapers and something is always very sad for me. But I guess my question would be, to what extent would this be a shock value? Would this create shock? And people who walk by and say, whoa, what's going on here? And would that be a shock value for the people, us who live here? Or would it be a shock value for the tourists, or both?
I think it would be both. This week, I went down there, and I went across the street, and I stood next to the cemetery across the street, and I just looked at that corner. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it would be a shock value, to see a generic building like that, which you see up and down the East Coast. And, or some have different gables here and different gables here, and they massage it. But it would be a shock, I think, to anybody from that corner. You have that gorgeous, beautiful church, and then you're going to have this structure in front of it.
I agree. It's just so open, and again, with those trees so beautiful, it just feels good. And I just think having this building there will just shut it right down. I agree with that.
Commissioner Wentworth, I believe you had your hand up. I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
No.
I thought you were done. I thought the
responded
hand
to
on the table was the emphasis more.
So I feel like I have a little history with the motel. I taught swimming at that swimming pool in the early 1970s. And so I agree with the feel of the openness there, and the nature of our commission with the Waterfront Historic District. That's a beautiful building. There's no question. It's aesthetically pleasing, but if it was being built in a new area, the way, say, Derby Street was built out of a new built area, and took a big area of land and created a plaza of interesting buildings and different heights, I think that's where I would say, wow, they really brought something to this community. But here, we have the Masonic building, we have the JFK, we've got the historic church, we have so many historic things that the compromise on the TD Bank building to re-energize our housing issue, I get why that went forward. It wouldn't be my design, but I get why it went forward. I just would like to see something that's a nod to the history of Main Street in here. I appreciate the effort that went into this, because this is a beautiful building. I just don't think it belongs on that corner across from the historic church, and the taking aware the you know how when you drive into Boston, it used to be you could see, you had those buildings, you saw the sky, and you could actually see the water. Now you can't, and they're just going and going and going. So that, I kind of feel that way about losing the opportunity to keep some sky and trees, the historic trees and the historic nature on that particular corner especially.
I'm going to ask staff if there's anything that, Jim, is there anything you wanted to say from a staff position?
No,
planning?
not
Okay.
at this time, no.
And I do have a question for you, just on clarification. I know the answer, but I want to make sure I've thrown it back and forth. And that is according to the guidelines and everything else this does to meet the guidelines that we have.
Well, my response always is, it's the review of the commission to confirm it meets the guidelines. A lot of it is discretionary to your peer review, so it's for you to review and determine whether it's acceptable. In terms of the requirements, yes, it
Exactly,
does, yes.
that's what I always like to clarify that when there's something that seems possibly contentious. And I want to make sure it's on record. I have a question. I mean, the commissioners, I thank all the commissioners for your input. This is a very hardworking, team-like commission, and I've always respected that. But I want to ask, because we always try to help our applicants to make something work. Is there anything that we feel might make it more acceptable. I mean, you have done a lot of the changes that we've asked for. I very much appreciate it. I know the rest of the commission, I personally like the brick. I think it softens it because it brings in that softer color. But is there anything that you feel might make a difference for some of those who are expressing some of the things that weren't?
I think it's just too big in front of the church, where I would love to see, like, going down the middle or put a separate building, I just think it's too big in front of that historic church.
Okay.
I think I think I agree with Tom. If we're set back more, it would be, at least for me, give me a second look and say, okay, maybe it's not. It's just, again, the openness now to what this will close off, I don't know. And I know that there's a business plan, and Building A and Building B are staying at this point anyway, and you got the parking back there that you need. I understand all of that, no question about it. But I just think it closes that corner right off.
Are you saying that if it were set back further,
I would consider it again in my head, and okay, if it's pushed back, like for example, the JFK Museum was mentioned. That's set back so far that you can't feel how big that building is. It's a tall building, but you can't tell because it's so far back. There's Town Hall. I mean, it's way back on the green, but it's a big building, but you can't feel it. This, you feel it. It's right there at the sidewalk.
Gotcha.
And I just think that's, at least for me, one of the main problems. It just closes that area in.
Well, I'm not really, I agree with all that, but some people like that building. I still don't like that building.
Gotcha.
Agreed.
And then you look from the back of that building, it looks like an apartment house, okay?
No, I agree with that. I mean, I don't think it's very modern.
And then it really scares me with what's going to happen to those two old structures behind it. To me, the only thing, and you said you can't do it, is, go down the middle here someplace, and in the parking lot, and leave the trees, and leave the openness in front of that beautiful church. I don't know, maybe do underground parking. I don't know. I know it's cost effective, but that's not my problem.
Totally.
That's if you want to build it or not want to build it.
Totally.
But I don't like it right in front of that church.
So I was actually going to ask the same. I was going to ask the same question that you just posed to the group. I'm sorry. What was your first name? Neil. So my takeaway, and I said this to our whole team when we got here. I'm like, I have absolutely no idea if this is going to get approved or not. And like I said, I respect it either way. But my takeaway from today is, if we withdraw, which I think is what happened last time because we didn't want to vote, and again, whether we do that again, at some point, we would like to come before this board and have something approved and figure that out. So the last thing I want to do, like sitting here today, and I'm not trying to put my foot in my mouth, David's probably like, shut up, Jesse. But like I said earlier, we want to build something that is economically viable. But the last thing I want to do is come back here in 2 months, retweak the way the structure looked, but it's in the same place, and it's just not working. So again, I didn't want to put we have not done an exercise to see if those A, B, and C are, maybe you can go up one story and have flat buildings and we can mirror the same architecture. Again, what I am curious about, and I would love feedback on, and I don't want to waste anyone's time, but what I would love to know is, okay, maybe we can look at, would it be more appealing if we found a way, if we did fill in the pool, and maybe we did do a smaller building, but it was vertical where the pool is, we're building, can you pull up the site plan? I'm being very genuine. Would that be more appealing? Would it be more appealing for us to just go up one story so everything is 3 stories if that was feasible? A structural engineer would have to tell us that. I just don't want to keep going back to the drawing board and keep coming here and we're presenting something that is not within your guys' purview, because I totally respect it. I don't live here, you do. You know better than we do. So where's building? I'm so blind.
We're happy for you to go up there.
Can you, like, where the part, so building. The pool is here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so if like we had a vertical building and maybe that was, whether it was 2 stories or whether there's 3 stories, would that and or potentially going up a story, like one flat story, mirroring the style
On
of.
all the other existing.
Mirroring, yeah, like.
Mirroring what it looks like
Correct.
now.
Like, and again, yeah, maybe it would be a little quirky because you'd, whether it's walk-up style or however you would do it, because you'd have like apartments on top of hotel rooms, but I mean, you can't hear anything in those units, the way they're built. Obviously, we're not deciding, but I just want the feedback if that, keeping the open, get rid of the concept of, because I remember when we initially were buying this property and we had meetings before we took over, and there was this desire to close it off. And of course, you know, now it's a little different. Obviously, we were meeting with different people, which makes sense. I just want to be able to go back to the drawing board and come back with something that's actually different and is actually what we're looking for. And then we can back into if it's viable, and if it is, then we can present it. But like, do those 2 scenarios like sound?
I want to be clear on what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
So if you want to show us something.
Yeah, so I think what I would be suggesting is, so forget that. So today existing hotel buildings are building B, oh geez, okay, go back.
Hold on.
I am
It's
not.
fixable, just bear with us.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that.
Not a problem.
I am not technologically savvy. Okay, so getting rid of building F, building B, C, and A, those are existing motel units today. 2 stories, pretty flat. So option A would kind of be, if it was structurally sound, go up 1 story on those 3. I don't know about the back building.
So they would be 3 stories.
They would be 3 stories. Again, I'm just throwing this out there. But keeping the open feel, my only comment there is then, you know, you probably still have to take the pool down, but maybe you could leave the old trees because maybe you don't need as parking because we would likely get a lot less units, but maybe it would be more cost effective to do that. You probably would still have to get rid of the pool because you would need the parking. I assume no one would want parking like right on Main Street.
Yeah.
Just guessing. So that's option A, and then option B, leave everything the same and design a building that's either like, I know exactly what Mashpee Commons looks like. I love shingles. We do a lot of, like, I very much get that vibe. So something that's either like shingled, cute, Cape vibe here, or something that is in keeping with these, maybe a 2 or 3 story flat building in the middle where the pool is, leave everything else the same, and maybe you do, you know, parking around, you figure something out. Those 2.
I think that'd be
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great start.
So that's what we're gonna work on.
And
I have
question,
one
does that
follow-up.
address the tree thing that has been voiced a number of times?
Well, yes, because if you leave that part where the F is now, if you open that up and you put it down the middle, you can keep those trees on each side of that
Well, I
new
think the other
building.
thing, if you're not building, sorry, I don't mean to make standing.
That's all right.
If you don't have the density of 35 units in your building, you could, like, you don't need every spot in that lot.
Right.
You know, you can give up a space or 2 because you're not gonna have as much density. But of course, I'm not like closing it, obviously, but I'm just saying that is what I would propose, that like we go back and look at those scenarios and we see how many units we could potentially get, like, because I think this is all very good feedback, and we see if doing something like that maybe because it's less, maybe the way we build it is more cost effective, I don't know, and we can do less density and keep it more open. But my thought would be go that route, let us look at both of those, and I don't know if I'm supposed to, like, we pause on this and come back when we have something like actually different if it is economically viable, and I'll stop talking.
I think that's great.
Put that building on South Street.
What are you going to say?
I have a follow-up question.
Why don't we just,
And reverse the site.
I would just,
Okay.
They like plans A and B.
I don't think South Street,
Sorry.
Lawler, please go ahead.
no, South Street doesn't,
Let
no.
Attorney Lawler speak, please.
South Street zoned differently.
Yes, it is.
Right,
And
right,
2 separate
that's why.
lots. And also, to you know, in this application, and obviously, again, it's different boards, but this was based upon a lot of the new zoning regulations that were adapted for Main Street. And, you know, to the team's point, to the team's credit, that this building, they took all the new regulations that a different board came up, well, the planning department came up with for zoning, or for planning board, actually, not zoning. And they were all incorporated in there. There were a couple of, you know, so I just want to, you know, I want to point that out, you know, for the purposes of the team, that all these things that were designed were laid out by the new planning regulations, and are all the colors, the peaks, the roof lines, all the architectural components of this project on the first two were the rules that were set forth by the town of Barnstable. And this group followed those rules. Now, I know that this is historic and is not governed by those rules, but really for the, you know, because these folks are professionals, and it's hard to hear some of the, you know, hard to hear some comments sometimes. I just wanted to point out that in them doing their job, they followed exactly what the town of Barnstable wanted them to do. The town of Barnstable wanted buildings on the sidewalk. The town of Barnstable wanted density that is consistent with this. The town of Barnstable wanted the designs and the colors and things like that. And I understand this is an historic board and not a planning board, but I just wanted to point that out for the purposes of the team. It has no other than.
I don't think anybody.
I just want that. I just want them to understand. You know,
Thank you for that clarification.
Correct. I think you're right. They did follow the guidelines. But I think coming to this board, and we have different things that we're involved in and we're thinking about, this just doesn't fit what our thought process is of what that area should look like, the historic Cape Cod we're trying to preserve. So I appreciate you coming and talking about, hey, let's kind of chat about how we did this, we did that, we did this. I think that is going to help us work with you, work together, and get the, you know, the final result you want and the final result we want. I'm buoyed by the fact of hearing you speak and say, hey, now that I hear what you're saying and I'm here and I know what you want, let's go back to the drawing board, because it's not like we don't want to approve a project that has housing. Housing's important.
Totally.
We just need it. We needed to feel a certain way, that aesthetic of what the historic Main Street is, and if we can find a way to do that, at least on my point, I have no problem approving a project that will do it.
Jim, is there, like...
In other words.
No, that totally makes sense.
We're working on new guidelines for Main Street, okay? And hopefully they'll be approved by the time you guys get back here.
planning or historic?
Historic.
Well, actually, it's both. Planning has already accepted the first version. We have worked on it
So
because
I
we're
don't- can we
working with
share any
planning.
information?
Yeah,
If we do the
You should have
option
that.
where we relocate the building, the first floor on Main Street is supposed to be commercial.
Oh, this is a good question.
So would that still be a requirement if it's not along Main Street?
Like if it was in the middle, like where the pool is. So it's an interesting point, because for us, you know, you're building out that space. There's a very small amount of, obviously I know this board doesn't, it's not about the economics, but if it was in the middle and you could have units, you know, maybe the front of a vertical building that would abut Main Street was retail, but if you could get more apartments on the first floor versus having retail, it would allow us to keep the, you know,
Maybe you could do
Well,
A and B at the same time.
That's in planning.
A and
Yeah.
B at the same time, do the building and.
Well, that was my question. Like, if we had less density, it wasn't on Main, it sounds like people generally would be open-minded to a third story without, or maybe with a small one. I don't even know what the hell.
The way it is now, the flat roof kind of situation, sure, because to
Yeah.
me, it would seem like a three-story.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have these peaks that make it look taller.
Yeah.
But you need the
New
peaks.
Guidelines
Yeah.
from Jim. and
For sure.
They're not finalized.
Well,
Yeah.
we should wait till they're done.
Well, let's just clarify that. So
would
if I
wait
can
till
ask
they're done.
planning to get Attorney Lawler the copy of the new proposed guidelines. Now, what happened, just to put you in the picture, is that for the last 2 years we've been working on new guidelines. We met with planning in joint meetings to put them together. It then went to vote, and the planning board passed them. But there were a few things we needed to tweak for, because it lost by one vote on the HHDC. So we've gone back to the drawing board, addressed the additional things. So now planning and the HHDC are having a joint meeting on the 23rd of September. It's a public meeting in the main room, and that will be to hopefully approve that, where it will be joint between planning and HHDC on the new guidelines. That way we have consistency rather than, somebody, Dad didn't give us the right thing, so we're going to go ask Mom.
Right.
So,
I think we would probably wait until, because we're not in a rush, like, we're not starting, right? Like, even if we had a, we would wait a bit anyway. So I think the best thing for us to do is let that meeting happen, see if it gets approved, review that, and then take the feedback, look at something where the pool is, potentially propose a third story if it is, in fact, is structurally sound to be able to do that.
Would you remove the motel units, make it all apartments? Okay.
No, because you would lose too many units to combine.
Okay.
Commissioner
Sorry.
Wentworth.
Good idea.
Have you ever used the strategy that Thomas Jefferson used to make a three-story building look like a two-story building from just on a facade of the front?
She's the boss of that department.
Ever
I
tried
am
that?
design challenged.
What do you say?
So Thomas Jefferson, in his architectural design, copied a lot of ancient techniques. One of was to make a three-story building look like a softer two-story building from the outside. So it's really three stories inside, everything works and operates the way a three-story
Like a
does.
mansard roof or?
Well, he did it with window placements.
Like
and-
a Broadway?
and,
Broad Street?
Friezes and different, so I'd be happy to share some.
That would be great.
I just want to hold on one quick sec. There are guidelines about those false faces. Those are not supposed to be on buildings in the
This is
guidelines.
not a false face. This is not a false face. This is, he had a window technique that looked like one big window from the outside, but the top of it, and some of the old buildings in Boston use the same thing. This window, this part of the top of that window was on the second floor, but from the front,
It looks like one window.
And it just softens the look of the building, and it makes there's nothing false about it. Nothing false.
No, I'm just saying, like, when you have a two-story...
Not a pretend anything.
No. I'm just saying, I'm obviously misunderstood. I thought, like, you have a two-story, then you just have a little false top that looks like it's a third story when it's not, because that's not allowed. So that's what I thought you were trying to say.
I thought that too, so thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll get the guidelines to you. And it is a public meeting, so if you want to come, because you'll know what the end result is of that, and what anything other additional tweaks hopefully will be resolved that night, so you'll be hot off the press, so to speak.
Ready to hit the ground.
There you go. I like the proposals you're making. If I'm going to suggest that if any of the commissioners, we've done this before, has anything else or any suggestions maybe for this, send them to staff, and they will be relayed to you as well.
That would be great.
That way you have some of the input on that, which means I'm assuming we're going to be continuing this to be determined on the date. Am I correct on that?
That sounds like a plan.
Yep. Everybody okay with that?
And please do, like, send feedback, because, like, I want to get something approved, and I don't want to, like, come back here and propose something. And I seriously, like, I really do respect that, like, the design may not fit.
Point of order, don't we need to set an exact date?
Like I said, what we try to do is...
Need to set an exact date, Commissioner Powell.
Why is that, please?
We have to continue
That's
to a
the
date
law.
certain.
What's the date?
Well, you're the lawyer.
I'm sorry,
I think just looking at Jim, and because we don't have a date, the application fee is minimal on this. I think we're probably better off just withdrawing and refiling.
That's up to you.
He is in charge, whatever he says.
In that case, it would be a
It's gonna be
withdrawal
another
without
date, and then we'll
prejudice.
Continue another date, and it's just going to...
And it's going to be a whole new different look anyway.
I know,
so.
but I want to make it clear.
advertise it anyway.
Yep.
Because of the because of the
This
application.
is why you're here.
Like I said, the,
That's why you're
They requested it be withdrawn.
Okay.
without prejudice and all
Without
that stuff.
prejudice, yes.
Okay, so that has been made. I will make a motion myself that we will accept a motion to, we will accept a, I don't usually do the motions, we will accept the applicant's request for a withdrawal without prejudice. That is a motion. Is it seconded?
I'm sorry, if I may,
sorry.
just for the demolition and new building.
Oh, yes.
For Sawyer Realty Holdings at 473 Main Street, Hyannis.
Good point. Thank you very much. I'm usually the one that
second it.
interjects that. Thank you.
Thank
Commissioner Kay seconded it. So we're going to have to do it according to who can actually vote, and that will be, oh, everybody can. Yeah, it should be right on the numbers. Commissioner Cronin.
Aye.
Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
Commissioner Hinckley Needham.
Aye.
Commissioner Crawley. And Commissioner Doherty.
Aye.
Commissioner Kay.
Aye.
And I also say aye. That is unanimous. So that is.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah, and as I said, we do try very hard. I think it came a point about a year ago where we were kind of challenged on what we do, and I actually had the list, and for like 2 years we had none that were not did not go through eventually. There was only, I think, 1 or 2 that in like 4 years that didn't make it. So we work hard to make it work.
Awesome.
And thank you for working with us.
No, we appreciate it. Thank you. And appreciate the feedback. And please send the comments so that hopefully when we come back, we can try to incorporate everyone's feedback.
We will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Really appreciate
Excellent.
it. Awesome. Okay, time to bring the dog home.
Now you don't have to sit down again.
It'll be the Franklin.
No, Franklin stays. That's part of the.
We'll do some. We'll name it after him or something.
Yeah.
If they ever get built.
Franklin.
The Franklin.
Bye, Franklin. Be a good boy.
Thank you guys.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sean.
Did we lose the pooch? No, the pooch is there. Okay. He was very well behaved.
Thank you very much.
I didn't know there was a dog in here.
So is there any update on the design guidelines other than the
She just saw it
23rd?
go out of the door.
The updates for the design guidelines. So a couple things. So I have met with Ms. Cronin. We're going to be updating it slightly, adding some track changes in there and a few different images. So I'll get that uploaded fairly soon here, so both committees have access to it well before the 23rd meeting. We were going to potentially discuss tonight, or it can wait till the joint meeting, for, it was a page 42 regarding murals. If anyone had any insight tonight, doesn't have to be tonight. It can be at the joint meeting. It also can be sent to me directly, and I can incorporate it as track changes. And anything else, if anybody had anything since getting the copy. But if no comments tonight, not a problem. We'll be posting the updated document to the website, push it out to both boards, let everyone know that it's a public document that's available.
And I had mentioned to you that my preference on that was to also put in the restrictions we already did on a previous mural, because we pretty much covered it, like no political and all that stuff. But you have a list of those, I take it. So
Yes.
we've got that.
When is our next meeting? Is it the 18th?
What?
Our next meeting?
18th.
Well, could we put that on the agenda for the 18th, so that way we could, I'd rather us talk about it
I think
first
so, too.
than
I
go
agree.
into a
That's
big
good.
meeting like
Can we
that.
do that
So
on
if
the
we
agenda?
can do that, that'd be great.
Done.
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, excellent idea. So we've got that. Matters, I don't think we have any matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. Town Councilor Bloom, is there anything you wanted to relay from the town council's point of view? Okay, thank you. Okay, so approval of the August 21, 2024 draft minutes. Is there, everybody read them? Anyone want to make a proposal?
I propose we accept the minutes from that meeting. August, what was it?
21st.
Yes, the August 21st meeting, yes.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Yeah, Matt did.
Matt, thank you, Matt. Okay, now, anyone who was not there for that meeting, please just, you were not, anyone else not there for that meeting? Okay, so in that case, Commissioner Cronin?
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner, you weren't there? Commissioner Doherty?
Aye.
Commissioner Kay?
Aye.
I also say aye. Those are passed. We've got to this time of the evening. Thank you for your contribution, your help, working with the applicants. Done a great job as usual. Also, thank you to staff for all your help. And I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion adjourned.
Is there a second? You got three of them.
Everybody's second.
There's Commissioner Kay, Commissioner Doherty, and Commissioner Cronin. Okay, Commissioner Crowley.
Aye.
Commissioner Wentworth. Aye. Commissioner Cronin.
Aye.
Commissioner Watson. Aye. Commissioner Matthews.
Aye.
Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
Commissioner Hinckley Needham. Commissioner Doherty.
Aye.
I also say aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.